Welcome everyone to the new episode of Virtual Summit, the Magical Creators live event, a virtual part of it. And today's guest is Bob Doyle. Thank you, Bob, for joining us today. And I know Bob personally, personally from the film Secret, the book Secret. And I always known you as a law of attraction expert. So for me, you say law of attraction, I will say Bob Doyle. So
well, that's nice.
So yeah, this is how I always perceived you. But I know that you do so many other things. I wanted to ask you first, how did you land the secret gig?
So I had been teaching the law of attraction for about 3 years online through a digital program called Wealth Beyond Reason. Now, how I got into that is another whole story, which I could share, but the idea is that I had discovered the law of attraction for myself in my life, saw it happening, got a lot of aha moments, put together this program that was kind of just me teaching what I was learning. and then it grew into this massive thing. It's a very big program, lots of interviews and stuff like that. But back then, Rhonda was looking for information about the law of attraction. This part of her story is that, her life was falling apart. She learned about the law of attraction basically from the Science of Getting Rich book, and then started, looking for contributors to her project, and I was just among them. And I think, my voice in the project, when you watch The Secret, there's very spiritual people, there's very well-educated people, there's everyday people, and for me, I think I was just this voice of just a normal guy, because I'm not I was not, before that, I was not in personal development. I was not, before, any of that. So I was just kind of this normal guy, and I talked about the law of attraction in kind of a grounded way, trying to use as much science as I could without it being overwhelming. So I just think that's a voice they wanted in the film. And my personal mission was, from a law of attraction point of view, my personal mission at that time, certainly with the law of attraction, was in complete alignment with Rhonda Burns, and that is to get this message in front of as many people as possible who are willing to hear it. So I think that in that way, we were very energetically aligned in what we were about in this conversation. So I was a natural fit for the film.
Right. And I think so. The Secret was great in terms it introduced law of attraction concept to the world, but it also created a lot of misconception about the law of attraction. So how do you explain to people what the law of attraction is?
Well, yes, when I talk about the law of attraction, I don't say things like attracts like, and I don't say things like what you focus on expands, even though there's truth to both of those things. It's just so easy for somebody to come back and say, well, what about this? What about this? And then you're just into a debate, which I hate doing. It just is not a way I want to spend my law of attraction energy. But I talk about the law of attraction more on a bigger scale, and that the law itself defines how energy, which we are all made of, the universe. I think we can all be in agreement that the universe everything is energy. I mean, that's pretty basic physics these days, right? So, and that energy behaves in certain ways and comes together to form what we perceive as our experience of reality. All the, if you will, the illusion of physicality and just everything, right? And there are reasons that energy comes together in the way that it does. There are laws that say this energy will attract to this to eventually form wood or the elements or whatever. Those are the laws I'm talking about. There are laws that define how energy interacts, how it repels, how it creates, basically. That's the law of attraction I'm talking about. It's not just a personal development tool. That's what happened after The Secret, is it got wedged into it's like a personal development tool. It is not. You can, with knowledge of it, you can change the way that you think, the way that you feel, basically what you're putting out there, and you can change your experience of reality on many different levels. For many different, you can explain it energetically, you can explain it biologically, all these different things. But that knowing how to do that will work in concert with this law and move energy the way it needs to move, so that you will move into alignment with your vision. That's the long way of explaining it, but it's just to say that it's not about a personal development tool. It's not about us just getting stuff, right? If we can, because that also creates this, that gives people a problem who spiritual problems. It's just all sorts of things when you make it so simplified. But when you can look at it from a big picture scientific view about just energy, I feel it's a little more palatable.
Okay, yeah, I agree with your explanation, but you're right. It made it's if you think positively, all your problems will go away, and this type of principles. How do you use the concept of law of attraction or energy work in your day-to-day life? Well, both in personal and business.
Well, when I first started all of this, I lived in that energy conversation and the vibration conversation, all the same stuff that people were talking about. How will I move into vibrational alignment and all of those things? And I thought on that level for a long time. And it helped me to integrate the concepts because of the science piece of it. But when you really look at why this all works in the first place, we don't need to understand all that energy stuff. We don't need to understand. We just need to know, what do we do? How do we be every day so that we are most likely to create the circumstances that will, create the life that we're loving. I go back to The Science of Getting Rich, the book that prompted The Secret. It's all in there. We really are created to create. We have everything we need to shape our experience of reality. And like I said, there's different levels you can look at it, but it does involve how we process this input that is the universe. So we have to watch our thoughts, because our thoughts lead to our feelings, and our feelings lead to our vibration, which basically creates our experience. That's the woo-woo way of saying it. But the scientific biological way is we are wired. Our brains are wired. Neural pathways, all these things. And this happened automatically over the course of time. We were unconscious of it, and we took on the belief systems of all of those around us. And that we are then limited to how we perceive the world. I am getting to your answer about what I do every day, but I want to set it up this way so that people can think about this. We're so wired to think and react to our circumstances, and the way that we react and respond isn't necessarily the same as the person sitting right next to us looking at the exact same thing, because we're wired differently. And so our wiring determines whether or not we're going to take an action, how we're going to feel about something, whether we believe in ourselves enough to keep going towards our dreams or whatever. But if we've learned that it needs to happen on day one, or it's not, if I don't get instant results, then it's a scam, then that's how we'll behave, and we'll never get anywhere. So the work that I do both on myself and with clients now is about focusing on the wiring. So the first question you have to ask yourself before you ask yourself anything related to the law of attraction is, who do I want to be? Not what do I want to have? Not what problems do I want to solve or whatever. How do I want to use this law of attraction? Who do I want to be in the world? Because when you're clear on that, and it can be whatever, by the way, it's not like there's this one answer of who am I? I must find no, you get to decide that. So you decide that, and then get a vision of who that person would have to be, and how is that person different than who you're being now. In a lot of ways, it's going to be how you think and how you respond. So for me, when I started taking this on, I realized how automatically negative I think, even now, I should say then before I started this, how my automatic way, because that's what I grew up with. So even knowing what I know about the law of attraction and all of it, my wiring still would shoot back to what could go wrong first. So, but when I became aware of that, it was like, oh my God, it's just wiring. It can be changed. The skill now is about getting into observation mode and being able to remove yourself from the emotion of the reaction that you're having, about, oh, I can't do this or whatever it is, and say, who would I have to be to choose differently? Does that make sense? Who I am now responds this way. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It's disempowering. What would the empowering version of me do right now? What would they say? What would they think? What action would they take different than I'm compelled to take right now automatically? That skill set of getting into observation mode takes a little bit of time, because our wiring doesn't want us to jump ship. Our ego wants to be right. And we are now we're throwing a different possibility in the face. So that alone is going to take it's a lot of diligence. So that's why, again, it's important that who this person you want to be, who you define that to be, is inspiring to you. You really I must be this. This is who I must be if I'm going to be happy, if I'm going to feel abundant, if I'm going to be contributing my full value. When you can get to that place, all of this is a lot easier. If you're not clear on who you want to be, or if you're just trying to get your circumstances to change and you still be who you are, that will not work. Because if you were in alignment with that thing you want, you'd be there. You're not right now. You've got reasoning, you've got wiring that is keeping you exactly where you are. That must change before your circumstances are going to change. And if you're thinking that changing your circumstances is going to change who you're being, you're wrong. It just doesn't work that way. So in terms of being intentional about your manifesting, so being clear on who I am every day, who do I want to be? This is coming back finally to your answer specifically. If I find myself in a reaction mode to whatever it is that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel empowering, now what I do, my practice, if you will, on a daily basis is to observe that and go, how would I rather be? And since I've been doing this, the change is dramatic. I mean, it used to be I would go negative and deep negative automatically and then have to work my way back. And it just doesn't happen like that anymore. Everything in my life feels lighter because with the work of doing it over and over, going into observation mode, I'm able to just be either find a positive way to think about it or neutral and not go down these roads. Do I sometimes still go down? Absolutely. And that gives me another opportunity to go, okay, this is different wiring. What is it about this trigger that's got me going deeper? And I can just look at it and go, oh, it's probably because of this, and then diffuse it. So that's really what it is. It's just like every day, who do I want to be? Because that informs what do I want to have? What do I want my environment to be? All the stuff, everything, all the circumstances. If I just focus on me being me every day, all the other stuff will work itself out.
That's perfect because it's just confirmed my approach. Because this online summit, I've never done online summit before. I participated as a guest. I know the concept, but I've never executed it. And it was exactly what I said to myself. If I want to make it happen, I need to show up differently. I need to become a different person who leads this type of event. And it does help.
And let me just say on your behalf that when you approached me about doing this, you occurred to me as someone who, like, hey, I do these things all the time. I'm doing another one. Like whatever you did in your mind in terms of who am I going to be in this, you did it successfully.
Oh, thank you.
And that's really key because that was a big part of my story and a bit the teaching and how I kind of got where I am is that when I started, in my mind, I didn't aspire to someday be something in this work. I said, starting now, who I am is this, an effective communicator of these principles, who can reach as many willing open minds as possible. That's who I am starting today. So every time I spoke with somebody, whether it was through email or on the phone or whatever, I was coming from that place. If you had come to me and said, hi, my name's Inga, I'm trying this thing, I've never really done it before, but I was kind of hoping you could, right? That's a totally different energy. Even if you had said, I'm really committed to getting great at this and all of that, like I could see your vision, but who you were being was someone who's not there yet, right? And that communicates so strongly. And it's not like you showed up in a suit with music and trumpets. You were just being you, but there was an energy about you that made me say yes right away. And if there's anything that anybody watching this can take out of that, it is the power of that. It's invisible sometimes, that way of being. Like, it's unexplainable why someone might react to someone in a way, but it's something about how they're carrying themselves and just how they speak. It's not affected. They're not faking anything. It's internal. So in your business, in your life, define who you want to be and just start being it. And you will see freaking miracles happen all around you.
You've just literally made my day, because prior to approaching you, I did the energy work. So I kind of felt myself into this way that, we are equally successful, even though I was starstruck when we first talked on the messenger. But before approaching, I came from the position that I need to step up also energetically, and also I was thinking about my community, how much they would benefit from listening to your wisdom. So I need to show up as an equal and make it interesting for you to participate as well. Show up as if you're already there.
It is so key, because I know so many people in the personal development industry, some who've been there in a while, but certainly those getting started, all the words they're saying are right. the way they're dressing is right. Their marketing look is right. But when they show up and speak, you can just tell they're not there. They're not congruent. This is all outer stuff and they haven't done the inner yet. There's just something, and it's a vibe that, it will repel people, or at least they won't engage at the level that you want. You've got to, but conversely, you can be that way, and that external stuff isn't nearly as important. Like I said, you didn't do anything special. We just talked on Messenger, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you went to any special, well, I want to make this look just right? There wasn't any of that. And yet people will do that, but not take care of the inner stuff. And you feel an insecurity. There's a lack of I just can't put my certainly professional trust in them just yet, right? Until I feel it in them. They're not thinking that normally, probably. You have to be really conscious about, why am I thinking this? You're just saying no. It's there's just not a fit. But like you said, all you did was just the work. It didn't take you weeks to do this. You didn't have to go do anything to master this ability. You just took a few minutes and owned who you were going to be in this conversation. Yeah. And the more that you do that, obviously, the more that your wiring will be like, well, that's who I naturally am. And then you'll just always show up that way, and you don't even have to think about it. Right?
Yeah.
And that,
correct.
I think, really, of all the stuff that we've talked about in this conversation, I think this is probably the most valuable thing we could tell somebody.
Absolutely.
Is to get clear on who they're going to show up in any kind of relationship, professional or otherwise.
And now I understand totally why, my intuition was nudging me to ask you these questions. So I got the list in my head, what I need to ask you today. And it was 30 minutes prior to our conversation. So now it makes total sense. So it's universe in action, basically.
Absolutely. You had an intention.
So, yes. So you are known as a law of attraction expert, and you were in The Secret, and it's your moment of a bigger recognition. But you also do other things, right? So you're not just a law of attraction person. You teach about live streams.
Yep.
Right.
That's one of the things I do. Yes, I'm very passionate about live streaming. One of the reasons is I'm a broadcaster at heart. When I started my professional career out of college, that's what I thought I was going to do, broadcast. And so now with live streaming technology, I can do, oh my God, whatever I want. So it's great. So it appeals to the geek in me, but it's also just an amazing way to create relationships with and build a tribe who know, like, and trust you. And that plays right into law of attraction. They're not mutually exclusive. It's just that I can teach live streaming without bringing law of attraction into it. However, I've got a boot camp going right now where I'm training people in live streaming. And a lot of that is about getting clear on your message and who you're going to show up as. So coaching is a definite part of that. So I'm still bringing my law of attraction coaching skill set into the work with live streaming because it's about helping people play a bigger game. But yeah, I think it's a great, if you've got a message and maybe you're using email or your website or whatever you're using, if you're not, especially if you're, you really want to contribute value to people, if you're not using live stream, it's a huge opportunity you're missing to create these relationships that will serve you in ways that you just can't build them in any other way, aside from being in a room.
So what would you recommend to somebody who was known for one thing, like in their business, and they decided to transition in different area? And I've seen many businesses, they were drawn to a particular area, they become well known for that, but then they want to expand and becoming known for different expertise. What would be your
It's happened many times. Yeah, I have many times over the course of my career since getting into The Secret and all that other stuff, gone to explore some of my other passions in virtual reality. I do voiceover and things like that. But voiceover is, it's a big part of what I do every day. But I don't merge that one into my law of attraction stuff. I just market that separately. It's just a different deal. Some people know I'm in The Secret, some people don't. It's mutually exclusive. But in the case of the live streaming, I looked for a relationship between the two things, like I just described. So it's logical actually for me to teach people live streaming in the law of attraction conversation for people who have a message. So if your passions are similar and you can find a way to tie them together and cross-pollinate, audiences, well, that's great. It's just a little creative thinking. If they're totally disparate, sort of like mine with law of attraction and voiceover, it's just like, I wouldn't say that you have to choose one over the other. I'm a big proponent of following your passions, all of them, and whether you're getting paid for it or not. If you've got music in you, if you've got painting in you, if you've got theater in, whatever it is that's in you, do not allow yourself to come up with a reason to not do it. Oh, I'm not getting paid for it. So what? It's in you to do. It's going to give you that wonderful feeling that we're here to have about being alive. If you associate happiness only with, do I get paid for it? Well, that's a wiring issue we need to work on, right? But the idea is to explore all of those things. Some of them might be professional, some of them might not. So if you can find a way to pursue your passions and tie them in professionally, great. Or you can set the intention that a way shows itself, right? Yeah. But I would definitely say to find time, one way or the other, to pursue those things and really own that you pursue them, share them. You can cross-pollinate that you share that you do these things with the other audiences, and see, is there anybody in those audiences who is interested in that? I'm just like, be who you are, share what you love. And if you're talking to one specific audience, try to stay focused on that topic. But if there's a reason to bring in some of the other stuff you do because it's logical and it might be of interest, do it.
Excellent. Thank you. So the next question is, do you go with the flow or do you plan things in advance?
If I suffer over a plan, if a plan does not immediately show itself, like if I've got to figure this out, then I have come to learn that it's not for me to figure out and it's time to go with the flow. It's time to just be clear on the intention, get into the feeling of having it done, and all of the good old-fashioned law of attraction stuff, like get unattached to how it has to look, get into the feeling piece, and then let the way be shown for you. And then at some point, something might happen, and then boom, 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 you got the next 5 steps of your plan right there. And it's just given to you. It's just given. It's just as clear. You didn't suffer over it. But if you find yourself spinning and spinning and spinning, and like, I don't know my plan is, I don't know my plan, you got to give it up. Let it go, and just be focused on being who you want to be, and the feeling you want to feel, how you want to have an impact on the world, all of that stuff, and then just let your intuition guide you from that point on. It can be virtually effortless. It's just all that, but for it to be that way, it's a lot of surrendering the ego. It's a lot of letting go of that wiring that you must know what the plan is. You've got to know every step in the process. Otherwise, I'm not even going to take the next step. That way is going to keep you stuck.
Okay, great. So, but let's say when you do live stream, you have like a schedule for that. It's a regular show.
I have the Bob Doyle show, which I do every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then I have another thing that I will do certainly during better weather months, because it's outside here in Las Vegas. I'll do something that I do just about every afternoon around sunset, a live stream that I do just out of the studio. It's real casual and stuff like that. But other than that, there's no real set schedule. It's just like when I'm inspired to go, I'll go. But it is nice to have at least a scheduled thing that you do so that people can rely on. And then you can do whatever else you want to outside of that. But yeah, having some reliability so you can build a tribe that's always there. And, you play with times. There's all sorts of things. It's a lot of trial and error at first. Depends on who your audience is, where they are in the world. But you just keep going live and you find out, oh, look, I get a lot more people at this time of day than this time of day. Maybe I'll go, I'll just keep experimenting with it.
Excellent. So have you ever self-sabotaged your success?
1,000,000 trillion times. I mean, because I grew up with the wiring I had, right? And so it shows itself in all these insidious ways. And sabotage is basically the way that most of our wiring, gets us. We do something or don't do something because it's in alignment with it doesn't matter what we're consciously wanting in our lives, but subconsciously, if we're not aware that we're being basically guided without our control, without our conscious control, we will take actions that will, slow the process or stop the process. And that happened to me many times. And it's particularly like right after I got divorced. If you've ever been through a divorce, it just whacks your world. I mean, and so emotionally, your own sense of value and all these things. So, guilt issues. I mean, I'm just a human being and I went through all of that stuff. and that'll whack your vibration. And so I took a lot of actions that, didn't serve me. And, it's just, because I was so focused on all the stuff that was going on, all the problems, I wasn't able to get conscious enough to be present and in observation mode to make different choices at that time. But since that time, and certainly since studying with the wiring and getting really serious about looking at that and knowing the reality of it, I'm way more conscious about that kind of stuff and don't go into automatic response mode in those types of things. And therefore, am being more intentional, or more, I guess, just more present about my decisions and things like that. I still try things that don't work necessarily, but I don't necessarily call that a self-sabotage if it doesn't work. A lot of that's just an attitude thing. Self-sabotage is if it doesn't work and you beat yourself up, you call it self-sabotage. You could also call it learning. Oh, look, here's the thing that didn't work. Now I know. So it's a decision about how am I going to respond to this input. And that's that when we go back to the how do we rewire ourselves.
Okay, great. So is it something in your business that you don't like doing? However, you know that these things need to be done. Some people don't like doing accounts or. Yeah,
I long ago outsourced all the money stuff, all the accounting, because my brain just isn't, I'm way more of a creative, and, and that absolutely, when I was doing all that stuff myself, it just killed my soul. And, but there are still some things that I will do like write emails and, long email sequences or something that, yes, I could get somebody else to do, but for them to do it, I'd have to transfer all this knowledge to them so they could do it. I may as well do it, that kind of mentality. If it's a specific thing, and I don't hate doing it. I'm trying to think of things that if there's anything that I actually hate doing, and I don't think I'm allowing myself to do any of that anymore. There's stuff that's like, this isn't my favorite, but in the for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and do it or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I'm a big believer in do not get yourself into a habit of feeling like you have to do these things you don't want to do, because it just sucks the passion out of what you're doing. You will associate those feelings with something that you used to love, and then you'll abandon it, and you'll have this really empty feeling. And every time you think about this thing you love, you're gonna have this trigger that associates it with a bad feeling. And there's just no, it's way more important to get that stuff outsourced, however you can do it, whether it's through barter, if you don't have the money, or just something, so that you will work in your brilliance as much as possible. Sometimes things are necessary. When you're first starting, maybe you make some sacrifices and do some of the things yourself, but your vision should definitely be about you loving everything you do.
Excellent. So I have 2 questions left, and we are almost fitting into our 30-minute time slot. In regards to what are the signs when somebody knows they need to take their life or their business to the next level? Like, it's time to do something differently and to play bigger. So,
I would think that it's probably a fairly obvious intuitive hit. I mean, one day you're loving what you're doing, and then the next day you're not loving it as much, and then you're not loving it as much, and then you're dreading it, right? So as soon as you start to feel, you're just going to feel it. So if you start to feel that, there's a couple of things that could be going on. Actually, it could be that it's time to expand the vision, right? Like you've maximized that one, and now your soul and your spirit want to grow more, and it is time to do that, and it's appropriate to do that. The other thing that might happen is that, your old wiring starts to kick in, and then you just, again, it's about really just being conscious and being focused on who do I want to be? How am I responding right now? And is this the way I ultimately want to respond?
What is the next level in your business, in your life for you? How does it look like?
Well, so for me, this year is really focusing on me getting out there again. Like before The Secret, I didn't really do any speaking. I didn't go do anything. I didn't want to. I got out there after The Secret because it was like so many invitations, like I can't just keep saying no. So I started doing it, and I realized, I like this. I like, interacting and stuff. But then I hadn't done it like after the divorce, and I just didn't get out there. So this year has been about getting out there, and I've been doing a lot more things and seeing things, doing keynotes, and just traveling around and doing stuff. So my next level again is about just visibility again. Just kind of getting out there and playing, and introducing people to, to the rewiring concepts, like, because my teaching of this has evolved. And I've kind of been doing it in sort of a quiet background mode for just kind of my Facebook reach. And now I'm like, I want to get bigger with this message. And so I'm doing a lot more of these telesummits. I'm doing a lot more podcast interviews and just really resurfacing. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, just bringing the fun back into getting out there.
Excellent. So it was perfect match. So with your vision, my vision. So
Right.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today, and so with people who will be listening to the recording.
It was my pleasure.